Hey, welcome back to the Broker's Voice. I'm excited today. I get to have a new guest on, somebody I've just met recently, and it's going to be a fun episode because anytime I see a product, a health insurance product that I think is going to make waves, that I think a lot of people need to know about, more people need to know about, I am going to highlight them on the show. So I'm excited today to have Wil Trohanis on, who is with One-to-One Health, but we're going to talk about one of One-to-One Health's products, TextCare. So, Wil, welcome to the Broker's Voice, my friend.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be here. As a
Yeah.
recovering broker, I'm thrilled that you'll have me.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the question I always love to ask people is, you used to be a broker. Now you're on the wholesale side working with brokers. But before you started working with One-to-One Health, before you became a benefits advisor, how the heck did you even find yourself in this industry?
It was at elementary school at a career day. I went and talked to the insurance salesman and walked out with like a critical illness policy and like a best friend for life, like all of us did. No, I honestly got into the business through relationships. So it was through a neighbor of ours that I viewed as a mentor of mine who was very entrepreneurial, but also had just this incredible network of people. He always knew people wherever we went, and that's when I really got a flavor for the nature of relationships in our business. And so when I was talking to him about leaving school and what I was going to do, my dad wanted me to pursue a path like him in consumer packaged goods, and I said, "Gosh, I love what Roger does. I mean, that sounds really interesting." And so that was when I started my career at Unum as a group sales rep, slinging life and disability insurance and voluntary benefits. Almost 20 years ago, and I'm so fortunate what this space has really provided me for my family, but also experiences where I've been able to go around the world, kind of under the banner of group benefits, really trying to improve access and financial security for all different types of employers, with all different types of solutions.
And I can tell you've been in the industry for a while, because you definitely used an industry term to represent sales, slinging. I was slinging benefits. Yep, that's what we used to say.
Yeah.
No, I think you're so right, Wil. I still believe a lot of people don't recognize how important this job is. I think back in the day, it was easy to say, hey, I'm a health insurance broker, which means I provide health plans with quotes and rates to companies and their employees. But as U.S. healthcare continues to take a main stage when it comes to both cost and quality, I hope more advisors recognize how important their role is. So I'm curious, what made you decide to move away from the retail advising side and join a company like One-to-One Health?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my previous role, it was with one of the big three consulting firms, a national house in a strategic partnerships role that I absolutely loved. I mean, when I think about a job title that was built for my strengths, with the ability to cultivate all different types of relationships, and then also have a look under the hood of the largest health plans in the country or all different types of emerging solutions. The role was just outstanding. But inside of me, I'd always had a desire to kind of bet on myself. And all throughout my career, I'd worked for big corporate behemoths, and kind of had this calling within me of really wanting to be a part of building something. And so I think it was kind of this entrepreneur calling that I've always had within me, and wanting to respond to that, but with a solution that truly I was passionate about. And I think that's what really came down to it. I met Dr. Helton, who started our company 10 years ago, and I heard about how he's improving the path to care for all different types of companies and the types of results that he's able to deliver, controlling cost and just these glowing patient feedback. And I said, man, I mean, that would be something that would be incredible to be a part of. And so yeah, I mean, I think it came back to the opportunity to be able to help build on this incredible legacy that Dr. Helton started when he began One-to-One Health 10 years ago, with a pedigree of just incredible clinicians, that we really wanted to continue building something special, and really expanding how we serve employers of all sizes and all segments, which we've especially done with TextCare.
Yeah, no, I like that answer, because I think a lot of people, I know I had it when I went out and started this company, Complete Game Consulting. The natural reaction from a lot of advisors is, oh, you can't hack it as an advisor. And the reality is, what you said sometimes is the truth. No, I want to make a bigger impact, and I know what my passion is, and I want to bet on myself. And so you went and joined a startup started by Dr. Health. Now, before we get into TextCare, let's actually back it up and talk about One-to-One Health, which is the parent, the owner of TextCare. Talk to us a little bit about why Dr. Helton started One-to-One Health in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an awesome story. And Dr. Helton was a multi-special, a partner at a leading multi-specialty practice, had served as senior vice president for physician services for one of the largest health systems in the Southeast. And Dr. Helton loves to describe himself as a frustrated primary care physician. He was being told to see, 30 and 40 patients a day, and just got to the point where he was kind of frustrated with how his patients would come in. They were complaining about how expensive care was to receive. He knew the process was not really built around the patient. But Dr. Helton was kind of, really unique in thinking about, look, my role as a primary care provider is to treat what's in front of me, but I'm going to be with you wherever you need to go. If it means that you actually do need to go see an orthopedic surgeon, I'm gonna call that orthopedic surgeon. I'm gonna have a conversation with them, and I'm gonna be here and be accessible for you every step of the way. And that was so foreign, kind of, for a lot of providers that are in the fee-for-service landscape, just to continue to be accessible whenever for your patients. And so I think innately he'd always had that wiring where he was just incredibly patient focused. And one of his patients, who was a county mayor, came to him and said, look, we're just getting crushed. Our employees are not getting taken care of. Our costs are going up 10 to 12% a year. Can you fix it? And so One-to-One Health was not started like a lot of healthcare, growth stage healthcare companies in this space. There's not a whole bunch of investment bankers or, MBAs that got together to try and IPO and build the next unicorn. One-to-One was started by a provider that was asked for help by one of his patients. And so Dr. Helton helped this particular patient, who was the mayor of the county, put in an on-site clinic, develop a high-quality network to send employees, beyond the provision of what could be done right there within the clinic. And within the first year, their trend went from 12% trend to flat. And they're one of our longest running clients, and have not gone beyond, I'd say, probably 2 to 3% trend for the 9 years that we've been working with them. And so that just, I think, light bulb went off in Dr. Helton's head, saying, wow, this is pretty profound. I think there's something unique here. And so fast forward to today, we operate on-site clinics throughout the Southeast Midwest, really all around the country, for close to 200,000 employees, really with the idea of creating a very agile, bespoke clinical model, specific to the clients that we work with.
Well, and fast forward even more, pandemic hits, and now we're all talking about this thing called virtual care. And what I love about Dr. Helton's story is he realized that the patient's journey throughout healthcare is inconvenient, right? It's the whole entire system works against the consumer. And when you and I were talking offline, we talked about this problem of inconvenience. And even some of the cost containment solutions out there today that are good, they work. Are they convenient to the consumer? And the answer, more often than we want to believe, is no.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate that in order to kind of bend the cost curve, it usually hurts. And with that, you're gonna have employees where that's going to bubble up to HR. And I think to your point about the pandemic, you're exactly right. HR and benefits teams have been overrun with dealing with the pandemic and labor shortages. There's so much, and when you think about some of the things and some of the levers that they have to pull in order to try and control benefit costs, man, it just creates a lot of noise. And so, I think that's where we felt like there was really an opportunity to come and reimagine what that front door to healthcare looks like, and really through the lens of convenience and quality, which is what we've built with TextCare.
Yeah, and that's what let's dive into TextCare, because you read some stats offline that I thought were pretty eye-opening. You know, somebody could hear this and say, "Oh, great, text virtual care, you're just another virtual care provider." Got it. But when I saw what you guys were doing, I said, okay, this seems to be something different. Let's talk about some of the stats before we even get into how text impacts healthcare. Let's just talk about some of the statistics around text and why texting is
Yeah.
going to be a very mainstream channel of communication, even in an industry like healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, at its highest level, texting is the most widely adopted form of communication in the world right now. Within America, Americans are twice as likely to text than to call. Over 90% of all text messages are read within 3 minutes. Think about that. I mean, I've been in distribution and marketing for a long time. And I think about all of the emails that we send and things like that, and all the follow-ups. It's unbelievable to think that over 90% of all text messages are read within 3 minutes. And I mean, I get it. The open rate of all text messages is over 80%. So, if you text, it's going to land, and there's a tremendously high probability that it will be read. So, Andy, I think what we were wrestling with is, in this world of all these apps, I mean, there's an app for everything. Why not take a step back and think about how are people communicating right now, and how can we really build something that is convenient? A lot of our original client base, public sector, um, blue collar manufacturing workers, a lot of trucking and logistics, these folks are on the go. So, text is especially attractive, when we're trying to get to those employees that we can impact the most. So that's really what led us to pursue that channel. And it's funny, I'll never forget when we were discussing a lot of the feedback that we heard from our clients about just general input on telehealth and kind of the market as it was. We had one of our now clients that said, "I'm gonna tell you something. If you bring another app that my employees have to download, I'm throwing you out of my office." And I love it, because that was a real call to action. And when we were all discussing it, Dr. Helton held up his phone. He said, "Trohanis, I've saved more lives through this than I've ever done, than I'll probably ever do in a waiting room or in an exam room, because being accessible and being there for my patients whenever they need it." And there's 3,000 of his patients that have his cell phone number. He said, "That's when I'm at my best, being able to really help or guide my patients where they need to go." And so we really went to the drawing board to develop that in full compliance and in a scalable fashion.
Well, and I'm even looking at some other statistics I wanted to read off. You had said people prefer text over phone calls 2 to 1.
Yeah.
By 2025, 6 billion people will send and receive text messages. We have maybe almost 8 billion on this planet.
Yeah.
This one I thought was very eye-opening. People are actually more willing to share more information via text than they are in person.
Yeah.
Think about that as a doctor. A patient would probably be more willing to share something via text than when they're sitting in the doctor's office.
Yeah. And we see it all the time where we'll be having conversations with patients, and it might be something sensitive, and the provider will say, "Hey, I'm happy to hop into a video visit if you'd prefer." And they're like, "No, I'm good. Here's what's going on." And I think especially as we think about I mean, you know this, Andy, the generations in the workforce, you've got 4, sometimes 5 generations across a workforce. And especially with some of the younger generations, even millennials, they're just more comfortable texting than having a conversation, feeling like they're going to be judged. I think there's just a sense of comfort that comes with that. And so we absolutely see that with how TextCare serves our patient base now. And it allows kind of the open line of communication with their providers, just not so transactional. I mean, you think about all the virtual care solutions that are out there right now, you'll get 6 or 7 minutes with somebody and then you'll never see them again. And so we really wanted to lean into that relationship and having an open line of
And
communication.
so let's dive into that. And by the way, you know who else texts? My 76-year-old parents. So despite the generations, everybody is texting today.
Yeah.
Totally. So go into that. So how does TextCare work and what makes it unique? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So in its most simple form, TextCare is a dedicated phone number by employer, and we'll work with the employer to communicate out the benefit, all that it entails. But essentially, we put the full functionality of a primary care office in the palm of your hand. So you can text, talk to, video chat with your clinicians 24/7 and under 5 minutes. So literally when we bring on a new group, there's a dedicated care team. So they'll have a lead primary care provider that they can build a relationship with, that they can work with on an ongoing basis. But also you have the ability to be supported by a team 24/7 for anything acute that might come up. So it's really powerful, Andy, when you think about being able to manage chronic conditions or kind of a persistent episode. We had, it's funny, you know, when the weather starts to change, people are active again. It's like sometimes they've forgotten how to play soccer, how to ride a bike, and
sometimes
so
walk.
We get a lot of instances of people right now like, oh my gosh, I just fell or I've done this to my ankle. And you get to guide them through, all right, look, you don't need to go to the emergency room. Let's get you set up at independent imaging. I'm going to be here with you throughout this episode. And you know what? 2 days later, you're going to get a follow-up from that provider, checking in on you, seeing how you're feeling. And so it's just a completely different level of the continuum of care, of being able to have someone there alongside your journey, which we think is so powerful and is a throwback to Dr. Helton's original model of being there and being accessible to his patients whenever, wherever.
Well, a couple things that also stood out for me were, number one, I heard you say you get you have one dedicated team throughout the entire journey. You don't get passed off from one virtual provider to the next. Number two, you get responded to within 5 minutes, like within minutes. Yeah. That's huge. And then the last one that I think is overlooked because it goes back to the convenience thing. Your team, the provider team, is reaching out to the member. It's not requiring the member to reach out to the team, which, again, let's talking about convenience. That's convenient.
Yeah. I mean, and when you look at, I think the two fundamental flaws that we see with traditional telemedicine, it's the path to care, and then it's the actual model. And so when you build a model that really leverages analytics and through the platform of text, we're able to get employees to use it and to come back frequently. So when we take over from kind of traditional telemedicine solutions, we'll typically see 7 times an increase in monthly visits. 7 times. I mean, that's staggering when you think about a lot of those are avoided urgent care, emergency room, office visits that you're able to handle through kind of a fixed cost solution that is just has made a dramatic impact for a lot of the different populations that we serve. 81% of our patients have said they've avoided the ER or urgent care because of TextCare. So we know that we're making a big impact when it comes to controlling cost as well. So we did an analysis of the actual engaged employee and savings. It's over $1,100, $1,142 a year is the projected savings for a user of TextCare. So,
well, and talk to us quickly about the statistical utilization difference between what we might refer to as the traditional telemedicine and what you guys are seeing with TextCare, because I thought that was pretty staggering as well.
Yeah, traditional utilization for telehealth. I mean, you'll get to maybe 20 or 30% of employees, but through our approach of targeted outreach, and for anybody that we don't actually activate, we have a team that will go back and work to get those employees engaged with the platform so that they'll actually use it. So almost really across the board, we're getting to at least 80% of employees where they're activating, interacting with us, having a conversation. They know we're real people, and that we're there to help, so that when something comes up, we're the first place that they're going to come. And so that's really kind of reframed a lot of how employees think about, oh my gosh, like, I used to have a dear friend of mine who's a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I would always cringe when I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've got something going on with my kids. I want to ask her, but I'm kind of uncomfortable with it. And you think about this is literally that access to a full doctor's office right at the palm of your hand, where you're going to get a response in under 5 minutes, which is super powerful.
Yeah, that's why we have text. We use a text platform in our marketing, because people have smartphones. It is their TV station. It is their news station. It is their newspaper. It is their go-to for everything. So why not leverage that as well? So I love this. Well, for the brokers watching this, because if you are a broker listening to this conversation, I would be having this conversation with your clients as often as I can, because text is one of the most leveraged mediums we have today. Just listen to the statistics Wil just read, comparing it to the traditional model of telehealth. And I hope you're seeing the value that providing a text-based virtual care platform can do for your clients. So, Wil, if somebody is listening and they're like, all right, I have got to learn more about this, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way to reach me is through email or LinkedIn, Wil Trohanis, or my email address is wtrohanis@one-to-one.health, and would love to talk more.
That's awesome. I put your email right here below my window. So if you're listening in, get a hold of Wil ASAP. This is a pretty impressive product. And again, I love the fact that it was built by a doctor who's just trying to solve his own problem.
Amen.
Like you said, in our industry, it's easy for people to look from the outside in and say, we've got a huge opportunity to disrupt and make a lot of money on the health insurance healthcare system. This was a guy who was part of the system and had a problem that he was frustrated with. So those tend to do very well in the long run. So, Wil, I want to thank you. This was awesome.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate all that you do. Great to be here with you today, and look forward to having a conversation with many of you moving forward.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. When I see a product again that needs a spotlight shined on it, I'm going to make sure the industry knows about it. So thank you again, everybody else. Take this seriously. This is a really good product, TextCare. You're going to learn a lot more about it in the months ahead, and get a hold of Wil so you can get your hands on it early. All right, everybody else, be well.